My beloved child, there is a thought that has been circling around you for longer than you realize. While you were focused on your daily responsibilities, while you were wondering whether your efforts were being noticed, while you were quietly moving through moments that felt ordinary, someone has been carrying your name in their heart. Day after day, your presence has crossed their mind. Sometimes it happened in the middle of a busy afternoon. Sometimes it appeared in the silence of the evening. Sometimes it arrived unexpectedly, bringing a feeling they could not easily explain. What makes this moment different is that today carries a meaning unlike any day before it. Today is not simply another page in the story. Today is a turning point, and before this message ends, you will understand why. There are people who enter our thoughts for a moment and disappear. There are people we remember only when something reminds us of them. But there is a rare connection that remains steady even when distance, time, and circumstance try to interrupt it. The person connected to this message has not forgotten you. In fact, the more time passes, the clearer certain feelings become. They may not always speak openly. They may not always reveal what is happening inside their heart. Yet the truth continues to grow quietly beneath the surface. Every day, in one way or another, thoughts of you return. You may be wondering why this matters. You may be asking yourself why this message has found its way to you today. The answer is simple. A change is approaching. Not a dramatic event that arrives with noise and confusion, but a meaningful shift that begins with a single decision, a single realization, or a single step forward. The person who thinks about you every day is standing closer to that step than ever before. Something inside them is becoming impossible to ignore. Perhaps there were moments when you felt unseen. Perhaps there were days when you questioned whether your kindness, your patience, or your efforts truly mattered. Yet what you could not see was the impact you were leaving behind. The way you carry yourself, the way you continue moving forward, the way you remain strong even when challenges appear, these qualities have not gone unnoticed. Someone has been paying attention. Someone has been observing not only your victories but also your perseverance. As this day unfolds, an important realization is taking shape. The person connected to this message is beginning to understand that certain opportunities cannot be postponed forever. Certain words cannot remain unspoken forever. Certain feelings cannot remain hidden forever. There comes a moment when the heart becomes stronger than hesitation. There comes a moment when uncertainty loses its grip. There comes a moment when action becomes easier than silence. That moment is drawing near. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to chase what is meant to arrive in its proper time. Instead, remain open. Remain attentive. Remain hopeful. Life often moves in ways that are difficult to predict. A conversation can change everything. A message can arrive unexpectedly. A simple encounter can create a new beginning. What seems small today can become significant tomorrow. The most remarkable part of this story is not that someone thinks about you every day. The remarkable part is what those thoughts have been creating. Every memory, every reflection, every moment of consideration has been building towards something. Piece by piece, day after day, a deeper understanding has been forming. And now that understanding is approaching a point where it can no longer remain hidden. As you listen to these words, remember this: your story is not finished. The chapter you are living right now is not the final chapter. New developments are approaching. New possibilities are appearing. New opportunities are moving into place. What feels uncertain today may become clear sooner than you expect. What feels distant today may move closer than you imagine. The person who thinks about you every day is carrying more than a memory. They are carrying a realization. And today, that realization is becoming stronger. Today, something within them is shifting. Today, they are beginning to see what has been in front of them all along. And as this realization grows, the path ahead is starting to look very different from the path behind. So lift your head. Keep moving forward. Continue becoming the person you were meant to be. Do not allow temporary doubts to convince you that meaningful things are not happening. Some of the most important changes take place quietly before they become visible. Some of the greatest moments begin long before anyone notices them. And right now, behind the scenes, a story is unfolding that has your name written all over it. The day is not over yet. The story is not over yet. And the person who thinks about you every day may be much closer to a meaningful step than they have ever been before. A quiet shift is taking place right now, and it is far more important than it appears. The person who thinks about you every day has reached a point where their thoughts can no longer remain ordinary. What began as a simple memory has become something deeper. What started as occasional reflection has turned into a constant presence. Every day, without realizing it, they have been measuring moments against the thought of you. Every success reminded them of something they wished they could share. Every challenge made them wonder what you would say. Every quiet evening carried a question that kept returning again and again. Why does this person remain on my mind? There are moments in life when people suddenly understand something that had been right in front of them for a very long time. Not because the truth changed, but because they finally became ready to see it. That is exactly what is happening now. The person connected to this message is beginning to see your value in a way they never fully understood before. They are beginning to recognize the impact you have had on their thoughts, their perspective, and even the direction of their future. The remarkable thing is that this realization did not happen overnight. It was built one day at a time. One memory at a time. One reflection at a time. While you continued living your life, something was quietly growing inside their heart. Every time they tried to focus elsewhere, the thought of you returned. Every time they convinced themselves that these feelings would fade, they discovered that the connection remained stronger than before. You may not know how often your name has crossed their mind. You may not realize how many times they have replayed conversations, remembered details, or reflected on moments that seemed small at the time. Yet those moments became important. Those memories became meaningful. Those thoughts became impossible to ignore. Right now, they are standing at a crossroads between silence and action. Between uncertainty and clarity. Between wondering and knowing. And the closer they move toward clarity, the more powerful this story becomes. They are beginning to understand that some opportunities are too valuable to leave unexplored. Some connections are too meaningful to leave unanswered. As the day continues, something inside them keeps pulling their attention back toward you. It is not coincidence. It is not chance. It is the result of countless days of reflection leading toward a single realization. The realization that certain people enter our lives for a reason. The realization that certain connections deserve attention. The realization that some thoughts continue returning because they are trying to reveal something important. Think about how many unexpected moments have changed your life before. A conversation you never planned to have. A message you never expected to receive. A decision that seemed small but transformed everything afterward. Life often moves this way. The biggest turning points rarely announce themselves in advance. They arrive quietly, then reveal their importance later. The person who thinks about you every day is approaching one of those moments. Whether they fully understand it yet or not, a new chapter is beginning to form. The hesitation that once held them back is becoming weaker. The questions that once created confusion are becoming clearer. The distance between thought and action is becoming smaller. And here is what makes this moment so powerful. They are not simply thinking about the past anymore. They are thinking about the future. They are imagining possibilities. They are considering what could happen if they choose courage over uncertainty. They are wondering what might change if they finally follow the direction their heart has been pointing toward for so long. You have spent enough time questioning your worth. You have spent enough time wondering whether meaningful things are happening behind the scenes. The truth is that many of life's most important developments occur long before they become visible. Seeds grow beneath the surface before anyone sees the first sign of growth. Great stories develop quietly before they reach their defining moment. This is why you must continue moving forward with confidence. Continue building your future. Continue becoming stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what lies ahead. The right opportunities often arrive when we are focused on growth rather than fear. The right moments often appear when we least expect them. The person connected to this message is learning something powerful today. They are learning that genuine thoughts do not disappear simply because time passes. They are learning that meaningful connections do not fade simply because circumstances change. Most importantly, they are learning that the things we value most deserve our attention, our honesty, and our courage. As evening approaches, the feeling becomes stronger. The realization becomes clearer. The question becomes louder. How much longer can they ignore what their heart already knows? How much longer can they pretend that these thoughts are temporary when they have returned every single day? How much longer can they stand still when everything inside them is urging them forward? The answer is closer than they think. The story is still unfolding. The next chapter is still being written. And what happens next may surprise even the person who has been thinking about you every day. The path ahead is beginning to open, and the signs are becoming impossible to miss. A change is approaching, and when it arrives, you may finally understand why all of this was leading to this very moment. A remarkable truth is beginning to reveal itself, and it is connected directly to the title of this message. The person who thinks about you every day is no longer standing in the same emotional place where they once stood. Something has changed. Something has matured. Something has become clearer than ever before. Day after day, your presence has remained in their thoughts, not because they forced those thoughts to stay, but because those thoughts returned naturally. They returned in quiet moments. They returned during busy moments. They returned when life became complicated. And every return carried the same message: there is something important here that cannot be ignored. For a long time, they may have convinced themselves that time would provide answers. They may have believed that waiting would make things easier. They may have assumed that distance would reduce the significance of what they felt. Yet the opposite happened. The more time passed, the more obvious the truth became. Instead of fading, the thought of you remained. Instead of becoming smaller, the feeling became stronger. Instead of disappearing, the connection became impossible to overlook. This is where the story becomes truly interesting. Most people spend their lives overlooking the things that matter most. They become distracted by noise, by uncertainty, by temporary concerns. They focus on what is urgent and forget what is meaningful. But eventually there comes a moment when clarity arrives. A moment when the heart recognizes what the mind has been trying to understand for a very long time. The person connected to this message is moving closer to that moment than ever before. What makes this realization powerful is that it is not built on a single memory. It is built on hundreds of moments. Small moments. Ordinary moments. Meaningful moments. Moments that seemed unimportant when they happened but became valuable when remembered later. The more they reflected, the more they realized how often your presence appeared in their thoughts. The more they reflected, the more they recognized the influence you have had on their life. You may not realize it, but your impact reaches further than you think. Sometimes people change the direction of another person's life simply by being themselves. They change perspectives. They inspire growth. They create hope. They encourage courage. And often they never fully understand the effect they have had. The person who thinks about you every day is beginning to understand that effect now. As this understanding grows, something else is happening. Fear is becoming weaker. Doubt is becoming quieter. Hesitation is losing its influence. The questions that once seemed impossible to answer are starting to feel simpler. The confusion that once clouded everything is beginning to disappear. And as clarity replaces uncertainty, a new possibility begins to emerge. Imagine standing before a door that has always been there. You noticed it before, but you never opened it. You wondered what was behind it, but you never took the step forward. Then one day you realize that the answers you have been seeking might be waiting on the other side. Suddenly, ignoring the door becomes harder than opening it. Suddenly, curiosity becomes stronger than hesitation. Suddenly, action feels natural. That is the stage this person is approaching. They are beginning to realize that certain opportunities deserve courage. Certain thoughts deserve honesty. Certain connections deserve attention. The longer they reflect on everything, the more difficult it becomes to continue pretending that these thoughts are temporary. Temporary thoughts do not remain every day. Temporary feelings do not grow stronger with time. Temporary connections do not continue appearing in the heart no matter how busy life becomes. The title of this message is not about a random thought. It is about a pattern. A consistent pattern that has repeated itself day after day. The person thinks about you every day because something about you continues to matter. Something about you continues to stand out. Something about you continues to create an impression that refuses to disappear. And now another realization is beginning to form. They are not simply wondering about who you were. They are wondering about who you are becoming. They are noticing your growth. They are recognizing your resilience. They are seeing qualities that perhaps even you underestimate within yourself. While you have been focusing on your next step, they have been quietly admiring the way you continue moving forward. Life has a fascinating way of bringing people to important crossroads. Sometimes those crossroads arrive unexpectedly. Sometimes they appear after long periods of preparation. But when they arrive, they challenge us to choose. To remain where we are or move toward what matters. To remain silent or speak honestly. To stay comfortable or pursue something meaningful. The person who thinks about you every day is approaching one of those crossroads. They are beginning to understand that meaningful opportunities rarely wait forever. They are beginning to understand that clarity is a gift. They are beginning to understand that the thoughts returning every single day are trying to tell them something important. Every reflection has been leading here. Every memory has been leading here. Every moment of consideration has been leading here. Meanwhile, you are being prepared as well. Every experience you have faced. Every lesson you have learned. Every challenge you have overcome has contributed to the person you are today. Nothing has been wasted. Nothing has been meaningless. Even the moments that felt slow or uncertain were helping shape your future. That is why you should continue walking forward with confidence. Continue building your life. Continue embracing growth. Continue believing that meaningful things can happen when the time is right. Sometimes answers arrive when we stop demanding them. Sometimes opportunities appear when we are focused on becoming our best selves. The person connected to this message is learning that truth right now. They are discovering that genuine thoughts carry significance. They are discovering that authentic connections leave lasting impressions. Most importantly, they are discovering that the future may hold possibilities they once overlooked. As this chapter unfolds, the energy around this story continues to change. What once felt distant feels closer. What once felt uncertain feels clearer. What once felt impossible feels increasingly realistic. The pieces are beginning to fit together. The understanding is becoming stronger. The realization is becoming impossible to ignore. And as this day continues, one thing remains certain. The person who thinks about you every day is moving toward a deeper understanding of what those thoughts truly mean. The journey that began with simple reflection is transforming into something much greater. The next step has not fully arrived yet, but it is closer than ever before. And when that step finally comes, it may explain why your name has remained in their heart all this time. There comes a moment in every meaningful story when everything begins to make sense. Not all at once, not in a dramatic flash, but piece by piece, like a picture slowly coming into focus. That moment is approaching now. The person who thinks about you every day is no longer searching for answers in the same way they once did. Instead, they are beginning to recognize the answer that has been quietly present all along. For so long, they tried to understand why your presence remained in their thoughts. They tried to explain it logically. They tried to treat it as something temporary. Yet every day brought the same result. Your memory remained. Your influence remained. The feeling remained. What they once viewed as a passing thought has become a constant reminder that some connections leave a lasting mark on the heart. The fascinating part of this journey is that neither of you may have fully realized what was happening while it was unfolding. Life moves quickly. Responsibilities demand attention. Goals require effort. Days become weeks, and weeks become months. Yet beneath all of that movement, something important continued growing. Quietly. Consistently. Patiently. While you focused on your own path, this person continued reflecting on yours. They noticed your strength during difficult moments. They noticed your determination when progress seemed slow. They noticed the way you kept moving forward even when no one was applauding your efforts. These observations became more meaningful than they expected. Over time, admiration transformed into appreciation, and appreciation transformed into something they could no longer easily describe. Many people spend years searching for clarity. They look in countless directions hoping to find certainty. But clarity often arrives in a surprising way. It appears when we stop running from what we already know. It appears when we finally accept what our heart has been trying to tell us. The person connected to this message is approaching that realization now. Every thought, every memory, every moment of reflection has been leading toward a greater understanding. The understanding that some people continue appearing in our thoughts because they have touched something important within us. The understanding that genuine connections cannot be measured by distance or time. The understanding that certain people become part of our story in a way that cannot easily be forgotten. As this realization grows stronger, another change begins to happen. Confidence starts replacing uncertainty. Possibility starts replacing hesitation. Hope starts replacing doubt. The future begins to feel different. Instead of wondering whether something meaningful exists, they begin wondering what could happen if they fully embrace what they already feel. This is where the title becomes even more significant. This person thinks about you every day, and today they are closer than ever to understanding why. Today they are closer than ever to recognizing the value of what they have been feeling. Today they are closer than ever to accepting that some thoughts continue returning because they are connected to something real. Meanwhile, your own journey has been preparing you for new possibilities. Every lesson you learned strengthened your character. Every challenge you overcame increased your resilience. Every setback taught you something valuable. You may not always see the purpose while you are living through those moments, but later you discover that they were shaping you for opportunities that had not yet arrived. That is why this chapter feels different. The energy around it feels different. the direction of the story feels different. There is a growing sense that something important is moving into place. Not because of coincidence, but because growth has been happening on both sides of the story. Growth creates readiness. Readiness creates opportunity. Think about how many remarkable moments begin quietly. A life-changing friendship often starts with a simple conversation. A meaningful opportunity often begins with a small decision. A powerful new chapter often starts with a single realization. At first, nothing seems extraordinary. Then suddenly you look back and realize that everything changed from that point forward. The person who thinks about you every day is standing near one of those moments now. They are beginning to understand that meaningful things deserve attention. They are beginning to understand that valuable connections deserve honesty. Most importantly, they are beginning to understand that some opportunities are too important to ignore. As the hours pass, the picture continues becoming clearer. The questions that once seemed confusing now feel easier to answer. The emotions that once felt uncertain now feel easier to understand. The path that once appeared hidden is beginning to reveal itself. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this story is that it is still unfolding. The final page has not been written. The next chapter has not fully arrived. New possibilities remain ahead. New experiences remain ahead. New moments remain ahead. So continue moving forward with confidence. Continue believing that meaningful things can happen at the right time. Continue becoming the person you are meant to be. What is meant for your journey does not need to be forced. It arrives through growth, patience, and readiness. The person connected to this message is learning that truth right now. Every day of reflection has brought them closer to understanding. Every memory has contributed to clarity. Every thought has pointed toward the same conclusion. And now, as this chapter approaches its next stage, one thing becomes increasingly clear. You have remained on their mind for a reason. You have remained in their thoughts for a reason. And the realization they are experiencing today may become one of the most important realizations of their entire journey. The story is moving forward. The understanding is becoming stronger. The future is beginning to open. And what comes next may reveal why your presence has remained unforgettable all this time.